resolution.
Good evening. I'd like to welcome you all to the St. Charles County Council meeting for tonight. And I'd like to begin the meeting with an invocation by Doyle Roth from Harvester Christian Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance from Mr. Joe Brazel.
Our Father, we come to you tonight and ask for your wisdom. Thank you for the men and the women in this room and the concerns they have for our county and our state. Father, we pray that people will feel heard tonight and understood. I pray that you would help us to make a decision that would be best solution for the concerns, and Father, the best for the people of our county. So Father, we ask for your wisdom, your direction. We pray that humility would prevail this room as we seek best solutions. And it's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Carol, will you call the roll?
Councilmember Joe Brazel.
Here.
Councilmember Mike Elam.
Here.
Councilmember Dave Hammond.
Here.
Councilmember Joe Cronin.
Here.
Councilmember Terry Hollander. Councilmember Mike Klinghammer.
Here.
Councilmember John White.
Here.
Okay, now we'll move on to public comments. Public comments, folks are allowed to discuss items on the before the council, and we ask that you spend no more than 3 minutes on an item. We ask that you identify yourself and also leave information with the ladies here about who you are. And then we alternate three people speaking for an item and 3 people against the item. So all that being said, is there anyone here to speak before the council?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the County Council, A.C. Dinoff, public advocate and resident. A couple things that I wanted to go over the agenda. First of all, still on the agenda is remaining is the Hayes House, $107,000 for consultants before we even remove any wallpaper, do any painting, do any renovation to that home. As was stated by several county council members, there was asked for a tour of that house, which would therefore be under Chapter 610 of the state statutes, the Sunshine Law, and open meeting. I've requested of the county staff, my county council member, and the county director of administration that I be informed when this meeting and the tour of the Hayes House is. I think when we're talking about expenditure of public funds, that the county has to have an obligation to make some type of commitment and some type of presentation to the county council of why the money is being spent. But $107,000 before any work is done is just ridiculous in my opinion thus far. The second item on the agenda is leftover from the last meeting, is involving 13 chargers. As Mr. Elam and myself are big advocates of shopping in St. Charles County, we need to make sure that our local businesses are being supported. It's less than 1.8% of a difference in the bid prices, and I ask that you award the bid to the Chrysler or Lufuse of O'Fallon. On your agenda tonight are 2 park bid for 3/4 ton truck, 2 of them. And again, we're looking at awarding the bid to Capital Chrysler Dodge out of Jefferson City. I don't understand why we're not awarding it here locally. And again, why we're not shopping here in St. Charles County, or at least if not in the county, the region. But the lowest bidder was Don Brown Chevrolet at $59,444. And there's a note on here says specified only 1-ton truck. Did somebody just pick up the telephone and ask Don Brown if they had the other truck in their inventory? I think that would have eluded and cleared up any of misunderstanding in the bid process. Again, I brought up the St. Louis County Police Report, incident number 15-44728, involving allegations of theft, felony charges on our Assistant Director of Elections, which is very important. We had a police officer that was removed from our county police for stealing from the police department and residents, and also was charged in Pike County for 5 burglary thefts. Why is this person not being removed from the election authority, which is tainting our election authority?
Mr. Dinoff, will you wrap it up, please?
Yes. I've asked that this be investigated. I think that this assistant director needs to be removed pending the outcomes of these felony charges in either St. Louis County Prosecutor's Office or the Fenton Municipal Court. But to allow this person to remain in office and to taint our election process and our fair elections in St. Charles County is just not right.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else that would like to speak before the council on public comments?
There are days like that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Larry Tracy. I am the president of Barnes-Jewish St. Peter's Hospital. And more importantly, this evening, I'm also the president of Progress West Hospital. I must apologize in advance that these remarks are actually more appropriate for March 14th. But as it turns out, as you visit the zoning issue that will come before you that's near Progress West Hospital, I will be enjoying a rare spring break opportunity with my children. So I thought it best to make a few remarks this evening. The application, as I understand it, that's going to come in front of you is for an asphalt plant within 1,000 feet of Progress West Hospital. And I simply want to convey a couple of reasons why I think it's simply a bad idea. The first has to do with patients, has to do with people who are vulnerable from a healthcare perspective, who are going to have absolutely no interest in seeking medical care from a facility that's within such a short distance of an asphalt plant and subject to those fumes. And quite frankly, the hospital will not be able to mitigate those fumes. On rare occasions when they do controlled burns in the bush wildlife area, those odors do come across the highway. We do our best to mitigate them, but quite frankly, we just have to get through it, tough it out for a couple of days while that takes place. We won't have that luxury with an asphalt plant. And then second, it comes down to jobs. Because if patients aren't willing to come to the hospital, if patients aren't willing to come to see their doctor, there won't be jobs at Progress West Hospital. There won't be occupants in a medical office building. And in good conscience, I will not be able to recommend to BJC Healthcare that we continue to invest in that facility. So to me, it's very simple. It's about taking care of people and also about preserving jobs in St. Charles County, specifically in O'Fallon at Progress West Hospital. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you coming to the meeting. Are there anybody else here who'd like to speak about any item?
Yes, Councilman, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Jim Gerardo. I'm the president of the Weldon Springs Homeowner Association, so representing about 200 homes in that area, probably 3 miles from the proposed asphalt plant. So we're here to just build on the argument that was previously presented because we just don't feel the pros outweigh the cons on the location for this plant. So to build not only on the human health risks on the hospital side, what we like to point out is also the risk to family members in the school systems that are right there, because Francis Howell is right there. The trucks coming in and out are going to put a safety risk on especially young adults that are driving, as well as the families, that are coming, the soccer moms, to pick up their families. So that's one of the concerns we have. Property values, there's been very many studies done that show it can be up to 56% of a property value decline in areas around these type of asphalt plants. And that means the tax base. We have 3 schools in the area, and we appreciate supporting the tax base. My wife and I have children that have moved on, but we still feel commitment there. We would hate to have our property values impacted such that the tax base was affected. And that's not just the end of it. There's other businesses than the hospital in the area. So not only that, but I'm a fisherman. There's 5 lakes in the conservatory area within a half mile that I enjoy, and I know the fumes and the air just blows all around. So trying to manage the habitat, the aquaculture that August Busch has provided, that's one of the reasons that I love this community, is the ability to just go down and with my family, have a picnic and fish in that area. So environmentally, human health, human safety on a traffic basis, we're just having a difficulty seeing how how the cons don't outweigh the pros. On this one, we just think voting against makes sense because the pros just don't outweigh the cons. And on the 14th, we'll have quite a few members of the community to show you that we're pretty united in this area. So thanks for listening. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone here that would want to speak in favor of the rezoning for the asphalt plant? Seeing none, is there anyone else to speak against the rezoning for the asphalt plant? Seeing none, is there anyone to speak on any other item before the council?
Good evening, Councilman, Executive Ellman. I'm Mike Benz. To reintroduce myself, I'm with Lou Fuse Chrysler Jeep up on Highway K, and I appreciate the opportunity to come before you and speak again about the bid that I presented to St. Charles County Fleet Administration and Finance about the 13 Chargers. I appreciate the opportunity that you pulled it off the consent agenda so we could speak about it again tonight. At this point, I didn't know how we handle it. You know, I know you discussed it and there was a motion made. So if there's any other questions, if there's anything I can address, but I appreciate the opportunity. One of the things I, in the shortness of time, did not mention is how Lou Fuse actually has 4 dealerships in the St. Charles County area, not just ours, but you know, we're pretty involved here. So if there was anything else I needed to say or do, you know, the ask that you vote in favor of the bid that we presented for the 13 Chargers, would certainly appreciate it and would have them delivered to your doorstep just as soon as possible with that vote of affirmative.
Thank you, sir. Any other items anyone would like to address before the council? Okay, seeing none, that will shut down public comments for this evening. Mr. Ellman, is there an oral report from the county executive tonight?
I'd like to yield my time to Scott Drachnick to talk about a subject I think is very important and introduce a person that's been a great advocate for STEM education.
Thank you, sir. Scott Drachnick, Workforce and Business Development, where St. Charles County has 3% unemployment, 17,000 more people today than in 2009 at the worst of the recession, and more jobs than qualified and interested job seekers. With that said, tonight we are coming into Missouri STEM Week, and I have a great privilege to introduce to you Randy Schilling. He is an IT guru, entrepreneur, and a person who's been very influential in St. Charles County. I think many of you know him. He has won accolades and awards for his community prowess as well as his business acumen. And tonight we're here to recognize him and talk about STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math in St. Charles County. And so Randy's going to speak to that.
All right. Thank you, Scott. That was very kind, and thank you all for having me here and recognizing the importance of STEM education. If you're not familiar with STEM, STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. And so I was very fortunate to start a business in St. Charles, city of St. Charles, back in 1992, and have continued to run that, and sold that business and started some others, and continue to be very involved in STEM education. But I wanted to share with you some information about STEM, since this is STEM Week. The first thing I want to do is some STEM facts. So 92% of boys and 97% of girls will not engage, don't engage in STEM if we don't get there by the 5th grade. And so the message here is that in order to get our youth engaged in STEM education, we have to do it very early. Another fact about STEM education is that that's where the jobs are. By 2018, STEM jobs will grow by 45%. Out of the 20 fastest growing occupations, 15 require significant math or science. The other thing about STEM is that's where the money is. If you look at STEM jobs, college STEM majors will out-earn other college grads. So an example, a petroleum engineer makes about $120,000 a year compared to $29,000 for counseling psychology majors, for example. People in STEM fields can expect to earn 26% more money on average and be less likely to experience job loss. So, first of all, we have to engage early. That's where the growth is around STEM jobs, and certainly that's where the salaries are. Currently, only about 16% of the U.S. bachelor's degree will specialize in STEM. So in the U.S., we just don't do very well in STEM. And so we consistently see other countries outperforming the U.S. Out of 65 countries, America's students score 17th in science and 25th in math ability. The U.S. No longer dominates science and research as it once did. So these are some of the reasons why, going back to 6-7 years ago, we started meeting as part of Partners for Progress. We meet on a monthly basis with all the superintendents in St. Charles County, as well as the parochial high school presidents and leaders. And so that effort has really been to focus on STEM education. It's a long-term process. And so, one of the first things we did was work with the state legislature to establish this week, the first week in March, as STEM Week. So we want to know that every year we come back and we keep at it, keep at it, keep at it. And so, so that was the first thing we focused on, is STEM Week. We also provided quite a bit of funding for ACT Prep. One of the keys for kids to go into STEM education is you have to have a good ATC score. And so, so we spent a lot of funding and focus on making sure our students are prepped. And not only that, but that ACT higher score leads to scholarships. And so that scholarship money makes it more attainable for a lot of these students to go into the STEM fields. Another thing that we focus on is robotics. Remember that stat I gave you at the very beginning about you got to get them while they're young. And so there's some great programs out there around FIRST Robotics, especially FIRST Lego League, which really focus on grade school kids. And so we've funded a lot of teams very early on in the grade schools to kind of seed these programs to help the kids get excited about STEM education. So they build robots out of Legos, and they program them, and they put on presentations. So it's kind of like sports. We kind of look at robotics as a sports. Robotics as a sport, I should say. And then there's also, as you get in middle school, there's First Tech Challenge, and then at the high school, the larger robots. And so we've been funding and encouraging all of our schools at all the different levels to focus on robotics competition. We also have a STEM job showcase that we started last year. Actually, Scott was involved in that last year down at the old post office, the OPO Startups. We hold a reception there where the county employers come and kind of showcase the STEM jobs that are around in the community, and we invite college and college students to that event to kind of showcase, so that when those kids are out getting their STEM education, we want to attract them back to St. Charles County. And then, as Scott had also mentioned, this Friday we kind of celebrate and have fun with our STEM. Every year for the last 6 years, we've had a STEM breakfast out at Old Hickory. It's this Friday at 7:30, and we'll be highlighting and celebrating one high school student from each of the 19 high schools in St. Charles County. And what we do is we give them a token of some type, and then we also donate back to their grade school a Legos robotics kit. So there'll be 19 and actually 20 this year, because we're going to give one to the Boy Scouts. I mean, not the Boy Scouts, but the Boys and Girls Club this year as well. So I'm very proud to be part of St. Charles County. I'm very optimistic about the future of where things are going with St. Charles County, especially with STEM education. So thank you very much for having me, and if there's any questions you have, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Randy, let me read this presentation to you. Proclamation from the county executive at his request. Let me put on my STEM cheaters if I can. By decree of the governor and the General Assembly in 2010, the first week of every March is set apart in Missouri as Math, Engineering, Technology, and Science Week, more commonly known as STEM. And the St. Charles County government encourages more school curriculum, student participation, and careers in STEM fields, and greater community awareness of the importance of STEM to the vitality of the county and our state. And whereas the Partners of Progress, PFP, of Greater St. Charles organization and business leaders like BoardPAC CEO and PFP executive member Randy Schilling worked with the General Assembly and Governor's Office to establish Missouri STEM Week, and they host an annual STEM celebration breakfast in St. Charles County. And whereas the 6th annual PFP STEM celebration breakfast will be held this Friday, March 4th, 2016, to honor one high school student excelling in STEM studies from each of the public and private high schools in St. Charles County, along with the Boys and Girls Club, apparently. And whereas Randy Schilling is the unofficial STEM champion among business leaders in St. Charles County, helping to create and promote this celebration breakfast and other STEM-related activities such as robotics teams, the Hour of Code, summer STEM camps, and Project Lead the Way. And whereas local STEM efforts are having an enormously positive impact on school curriculum, student achievement, career pursuits, and the community's entrepreneurial infrastructure, along with the future workforce and business leaders of St. Charles County, now therefore be it proclaimed that I, Steve Ellman, County Executive of St. Charles County, Missouri, urge all educational institutions, businesses, governments, community groups, families, students, and citizens of all ages to join in recognizing Randy Schilling for his leadership role in STEM efforts, and hereby encourage all to support and take part in the Missouri STEM Week 2016 and the 6th annual PFP STEM Celebration Breakfast on March 4th, 2016 in St. Charles County, Missouri. Congratulations. Let's come over here.
Mr. Chairman, let me just add my thanks to Randy for everything he does, and especially the STEM breakfast, okay? Because this is a way to reward those kids who have really dedicated themselves and worked so hard. Because what he didn't tell you in all this is STEM is hard work. Because if it was easy, everybody'd be doing it. But it is absolutely vital for the future of our society and our country. And anything you can do to motivate those kids, man, we thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay, moving on. We're on to the consent agenda. Are there any items to be removed from the current consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Consent agenda is passed. Moving on to items removed from the consent agenda. Is there a motion to bring items up for consideration from the items that were previously moved?
Make a motion to remove the Hayes House and the police cruisers.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, bring up the first item for the Parks and Recreation, the design services for Hayes House. Is there any comments anyone would like to make on that?
I would. I guess Corey, you want to come up, Corey? And we all took the tour of the Hayes House, and we all know the value it has to St. Charles County as far as the historic value, along with the Daniel Boone home and everything in that valley. So it's important to me to recognize that and recognize the historic value of our heritage. I'm in favor of continuing forward with it. I think that after some of the conversations we had, it's important to do a line item bid on it. We talked to Corey, and I know that he thinks that it's very doable to do it that way and have the architect draw it up as line item options to build into it, to decide whether or not, that way we can have the intelligent conversation whether or not, okay, we're going to spend this on the architectural fees. However, we don't want to spend this much, or we do want to spend this much. Then we can have the intelligent conversation on how much we actually want to put into it. Corey?
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to be able to pick each individual item, but we'll pick out like 2 or 3 main alternates that are the major.
The major alternates?
Yes, and we'll have alternates in the bid. But I can't ask our architect to draw me 4 or 5 different sets of blueprints. It'll be one with a few different alternates we can choose from after we get bid alternates, and we can see what the dollar value is for each alternate.
And we will have different levels that we can, percentages of historical accuracy we can pursue based on that person's work.
Yes,
right?
we could choose those alternates. You know, we'll pick on the 3 main ones that'll kind of decide how far I guess we want to take the restoration.
And with discussions with Corey too, I think it's important to bring out, Corey's done everything he can to keep this architectural bill as low as he can. Him and the county historian are doing work to kind of keep the bill down. So we have to have a plan to start with, and this is the plan that we're talking about approving tonight. Mike?
Yeah, I wanted to add on to that as well. At first blush, $107,000 for an architectural fee is, you have to ask yourself, what are we trying to do here? And but after visiting the site, it's not like other projects, and it's one if we're going to do it, we got to make sure we do it right. And segmenting it into different parts is definitely the way to go. I realize the importance of this particular historic structure, and you guys know I've been a little bit critical in the past on some of the historic structures that we've strove to preserve and spent a lot of money on them. This one is one though that is important to the history of St. Charles County, and I absolutely believe we need to go forward and get a plan and see what it's really going to cost to rehab it. So, Corey, again, thank you. I know you've already was able to eliminate some of the items that was on the architect's list of things that we needed to do, either by your own experience or our own historian. So I certainly appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Any other items?
The Rams?
Well, no, I guess we'll vote on this first.
Or we can just do it
move on.
together. Or
I think we need to vote on it first. So that being said,
I'll make a motion to approve the
Second.
Hayes House.
yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item is the Police Department Dodge Charger purchase. It was already brought up to bring up for consideration. I would like to ask anybody at this time to voice their comments on that.
Yep, I've looked at this one again, and I think that a few things. Number one, we definitely need to get a written policy. We talked about that in the past. I'll continue to work with the finance department to have something that's a little bit more quantifiable. But on this particular one, I think with anytime that we can place business within St. Charles County, that's important to me. I think that this one is close enough that, yes, it is $6,000, but given the size of the overall contract, I think it's the right way to go on it. So I would ask, we can't change it, we can't award the contract to somebody else, but we can ask administration to go back and take another look at it at the second lowest bidder.
I'd like to make a comment, Joe.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we have looked at it again. We're standing by our original recommendation, which you can accept. If you don't want to accept that, you can put it in bill to go ahead and give it to somebody else, and then we'd have the regular process.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr.
Well, did
Brazel?
you guys already approve this contract?
No.
No, we're deciding that now.
Okay, I got a
No,
question.
but the point is, again, on a consent agenda, when we send something to the consent agenda, it means we're signing off on it then, instead of like a regular bill where it comes back to us and we can, veto it or sign it. So, what we're sending to you on the consent agenda, so it can be handled expeditiously, is something that we're okay with. And again, after this, we looked at everything again, talked to Bob Schnurr, Director of Administration, and we basically decided that this is we're going to stick with our recommendation. And it's obviously your prerogative. If you don't like that, that's fine. You can put in a regular bill and, and award it to someone else.
Being gone for the initial discussion of this, I reached out to Captain Todd, our Chief of Police, and I realized that if we spend the $6,000 extra with a local vendor, it's coming out of his budget. And while I'm a local businessman myself, and I think it's very important to support local businesses, I think it's probably more important to support our local police. And the chief pretty much told me that he would much rather have the $6,000 in his budget because he has updates to do these police cruisers, such as, because a lot they're replacing Crown Victorias and a lot of the gear doesn't fit. So I understand that the concerns about local, but when it comes to police cars, I'm going to defer and get my advice from the man with the badge. So personally, I'm fine with the bid as prepared and approved by the administration. And I do agree with Mr. Klinghammer that I think a more formal policy we might want to consider. But for this one, the $6,000 has got to come out of the chief's budget, and the chief needs that $6,000 to protect the citizens of this county, in my opinion.
Joe, I got a comment.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Car Dealer, can you come up here, please?
Mr. Car Dealer.
Is that his official name?
I got a couple questions for you. You had made a comment at the last meeting that and I think what the council has to figure out is where is added value. It's about value. If in fact there's added value for going with a local dealership, then it makes economic sense. So my question to you is, you clearly stated at the last meeting that the county borrows cars from you when there's a car in the shop and that sort of thing. Is that true, or did you not say that, or did you say that?
I said something to that sense. What I was trying to illustrate is when the new radios were being put in to update everybody in the region to be on the same radio frequency, the officers would bring their car in, and I said, here, this is a great opportunity for them to drive a new car. So I sent one up there. And I've had cars on the lot available at other times. There was a fugitive response vehicle that was in need, and I had it right there on the lot, ready for you all to go with and look at to begin with through the process. And I'm right there. I'm right in the backyard.
I mean, the other thing is about jobs. We're dealing with an O'Fallon company. They're selling 13 cars. The service of them. And when you have loyalty to somebody, I know you can't bid out loyalty, but it does go a long distance if they're providing cars to our employees, that's added value. Also, I know that this is not so, you can't, but they're part of the community. They help the backstoppers. They help the first responders. Soccer clubs. And so these things are important when the bids are not that far apart, when you're talking $400 a car or whatever it was.
Councilman, I think Mr. Schnurr needs to speak to this. The cars that we used when we installed the radios were rentals. They were not borrowed from a dealer. I mean, they were a significant expense during the installation process. So I don't know what is being discussed here.
I think what we're discussing is whether it's worth.
No, I understand, but the gentleman's claim that he lent vehicles during the installation process. We did not borrow vehicles during the installation process. We rented them.
Yeah. We've been told, some of us have been told that before. I think the real question is whether the added values of a local dealer, okay, are worth $6,000 to the department, okay? And I asked that question point blank to the head of police in St. Charles County, and I asked him because obviously I will do anything, at least as my counsel, myself, to support police in St. Charles County. And I was told the $6,000 for other items for those cars was more important. Okay, and I think that's what I wanted to hear. And I think unfortunate that didn't come out in the previous meeting. But that being said, he's got people to protect. He needs equipment for the cars, and it's $6,000 is $6,000. Anything else? Do we want to then, now someone make a motion to vote on this, get this done? The motion would be to vote on this item as presented by the administration.
You can vote this up or vote it down, or you can retable it, but
I
you
heard
can't
loud-
substitute another.
Yeah, I heard loud and clear that he needs his cars, so why don't we vote to see it, the way it's currently written for the low bidder, let's vote on that up or down, and if that vote gets voted down, then we'll go to a separate vote for the second low bidder.
No,
Is that proper?
that's what you can't do.
Okay.
You'd have to introduce a bill
Introduce
to
a new
do an
bill.
alternate.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
Steve is, the county executive has sent forward
So-
this bid without the ability
If
to
we-
veto it.
Okay, so if we do not accept this bid, then it's going to be out for 2 more
Then
weeks.
you'll need to do a bill, right?
Okay.
2 more
It'll take a
meetings,
month.
yes, sir.
Right.
2 more meetings, another month.
Mr. Chairman, I agree with your comments, and with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Okay.
Okay.
Every time.
Okay, moving on. We have a resolution tonight. It's 1601. Carol, would you please read this resolution?
Bill number 1601, sponsored by council as a whole, a resolution opposing redevelopment of the Maryland Park Lake District in the city of Maryland Heights. Whereas St. Charles County and St. Louis County sit at the confluence of the country's 2 great rivers, the Missouri River and the Mississippi River, and the St. Charles County Council wants to protect the beauty of this unique area. Whereas the residents of St. Charles County recently witnessed major flooding in the area when water levels of the 2 rivers and tributaries thereto raised faster and higher than previous floods, and civic leaders are being urged to avoid putting homes and other development in flood-prone areas or continuing a pattern of development that can be expected to divert floodwaters onto other areas. And whereas the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, recently changed its map, which put homes and businesses in the floodplain that were previously not in the floodplain. Whereas the City of Maryland Heights, as contemplated in Resolution Number 2016-1198, passed by its City Council and approved by its mayor on February 4, 2016, is seeking proposals to develop 1,800 acres of floodplain along the Missouri River. And whereas the St. Charles County Council opposes any proposal to develop floodplain in an area that will most likely flood again. Now therefore be it resolved by the County Council of St. Charles County, Missouri as follows. Section 1, the St. Charles County Council hereby opposes any proposal to develop in flood-prone areas or continuing a pattern of development that can be expected to divert floodwaters onto other areas, which includes the present proposal for redevelopment of the Maryland Park Lake District in the city of Maryland Heights. Section 2, the executive assistant to the county council is hereby directed to forward a copy of this resolution to the city of Maryland Heights to notify them of St. Charles County's opposition to said proposed development.
Mr. Hammond.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to amend Resolution 1601 and replace it with substitute Resolution 1601.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
There's part of 1601, I believe that's the different part, and it talks, I believe it's the last whereas paragraph, is that correct? Where it talks about tax increment financing,
That's in the substitute,
and that wasn't in the original?
correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
may I explain what's
Yes, sir.
different about this? There's 2 other whereases in this, in addition to the ones that have already been read. And it's whereas the City of Maryland Heights furthermore indicated in its resolution that the city will consider the use of tax increment financing to facilitate the redevelopment of the area. And the second, the next one was in there, but then the one at the very bottom, the use of tax increment financing generally provides an unfair taxpayer subsidy to businesses who would locate in or remain in the greater St. Louis metropolitan region even without the use of any tax incentives, and this practice deprives taxing jurisdictions of revenue needed to keep pace with the increased demand for services resulting from such development. And it's the argument that many of us have made about TIFs for a long time, and I think whoever sponsored this, I think, hopefully agrees with that change.
It's actually my bill, but.
It says sponsored by council as a whole.
I've passed it on. I passed it on to everybody just so it was like that, but I
You can
originated
have
it.
yourself removed
Right.
if you like.
The last paragraph in it, and respectfully to the county executive, I'm not as opposed to using tax increment financing as a redevelopment tool. I think that, yes, it has some cases where it has been not judiciously used, but I think it as a tool that it has some attributes. And I'm uncomfortable throwing all tax increment financing out, as a tool that we shouldn't look at. However, the rest of the ordinance, of the resolution, rather, I do fully agree with. I think we need to be very cautious about redevelopment in the floodplains. Anything that happens on one side of the river affects the other side. It's just common sense. And I think that we need to be very cautious about any development within the floodplains. It pushes the water somewhere. The water has to go somewhere. And if we allow development in the floodplain, it has an impact in other areas. I'm not a hydrologist. I don't know exactly what that impact will be, but common sense says that it's going to go somewhere and most likely come across to the other side of the river, which happens to be St. Charles County. So I'm going to vote in favor of the resolution. I just don't like that one part. I just want to go on record as saying that I think that there are times when tax increment financing makes sense.
Okay.
Thank you.
So noted. Mr. Brazel, do you have comments?
Yeah, I was going to say, I didn't see anybody calling me in December, coming down to Defiance to offer a sandbag. So I'm going to say that this is personal. This is very personal, and I'm going to tell you why. I've had many conversations with the county executive on the fact that the federal government just this year or last year, 2015, raised our flood levels to a 100-year floodplain in Defiance, okay? So I have commercial property down there. When we bought it, it was in a 500-year floodplain. So when the federal government raised it to a 100-year floodplain, that means we can't build on the property that we bought for investment, right? Nor can anybody else build on this other side of 94 in the town of Defiance. Why? Because according to the federal government, when Chesterfield levee was built and Earth City levee was built, it raised the river levels in Defiance and other areas in St. Charles County 1 foot. So now everybody in Defiance is mandated by federal government to have flood insurance. Now, if that's not wrong, I don't know what is. So what they're doing is they're building levees, our neighbors are building levees downstream to appreciate their property values, meanwhile decreasing the property values of everyone upstream. This is actually what they call insanity, keep doing the wrong thing over and over again and expecting a different result. But let me continue on a couple more things. Then you talk about it being a TIF, a tax increment financing, right? So our friend, Mr. Kroenke, well, he already kicked us in the crotch once, right? So now what we're going to do is we're going to give this guy tax money for one of his investments that kick us in the crotch twice. So what do they call that? If somebody does that to you once, shame on them. Someone does that to you twice, shame on us. Maryland Heights should be ashamed of themselves, okay? This is an insult. This is wrong to your neighbors. And it's just, I can't believe it. It's like, it's crazy is what it is. And in December, we have all these floods, and nobody can understand why? Are you kidding me? Because of all these levees everyone keeps building. And we're going to sit there and let we're not going to let them do it. I mean, I'll tell you that. We're going to do whatever we can to stop them. But this is crazy, crazy. We have more waterways in the St. Charles County than any other county in the state of Missouri, based by the Mississippi and the Missouri. And these people that are building all these levels keep screwing us and everybody else upstream. So I think I'm opposed.
You want to think about that a little more?
Opposed to the levy and for the bill.
Opposed to the levy and for the bill, right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
can I speak on your all's resolution?
Yes, sir.
I agree with Mr. Brazel. I maybe will not have the same level of passion that he does, but Wayne and I discussed this the other day, and between 96 and 1006, the level of the 100-year flood across the river, 2 feet.
From 96 to 2010.
Yeah, but actually, they put it in 2006. We didn't approve it until, to 2010. Okay. So 14 years. Yes. Over 14 years, that level raised 2 feet. Okay. Now, I know they're going to tell you that, they got how much freeboard, whatever. But whatever freeboard they had before, it's now 2 feet less. And 14 years from now, is it going to be another 2 feet less? At some point, if the present trend continues, doesn't matter how high that levy is, it's not going to protect the property. And yes, it is going to that levy puts more water on our people on this side of the river. And that's the main reason, I guess, I hope that you'll pass this resolution. But I would say, I would agree with Mr. Klinghammer that not all TIFs are bad. I supported a TIF last year. St. Louis County wanted to help Boeing build a factory and bring in jobs from Seattle to St. Louis. I think that's a great use of TIF. But I would challenge someone to show me an example of a retail TIF that didn't just take business from one community and move it to the other. Everybody's so proud of Ballpark Village, and I'm the biggest Cardinal fan in this room, but I was an opponent of Ballpark Village, and everybody was so happy, when it came. Well, 2 or 3 years later now, 2 years later, we've got at least 3 restaurants that I can name downtown that have closed because everybody's going to Ballpark Village, which is fine, except Ballpark Village gets to keep half of their sales tax revenue, while everybody else pays the revenue to the city and the county and the state. So, we have been debating this for a long time, and I think, there's a lot of people, Mr. Kroenke was mentioned, there's a lot of people that were opposed to the governor and the mayor of St. Louis wanting to give him tax subsidies for a stadium. Those same people need to understand we've been giving people like Mr. Kroenke and others hundreds of millions of dollars to build malls and shopping centers and taking the money away from our schools and other political subdivisions. And East-West Gateway says we spent $3.8 billion, I think, over the last 20 years, and we got 5,000 new retail jobs. That's over $300,000 per job. Now, Mr. Klinghammer's right. There are good uses of TIFs. It's when you can use it to bring a new job into the region and not for these retail TIFs where you just move jobs from St. Louis County to St. Charles, or in this case, they'll be moving them from Hazelwood, where the mills is failing, and they'll be moving them over here. Okay? If the market says that's a good move, then let the private developers do it. But don't ask the taxpayers to subsidize it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you,
Well
sir.
said.
I think it's as a point of clarification, the clause of the whereas that Mr. Klinghammer said, so the use of tax increment financing generally provides an unfair taxpayer advantage. Not always.
Generally is the key word.
Generally. Generally means there's exceptions to the rule, and maybe
Right.
there's an occasion when we have a good one. That being said, does anyone else like to comment on this resolution? Okay, then we'll move for a vote on resolution number 1601. I believe, Carol, you need to read it again?
Substitute Resolution Number 1601, a resolution opposing redevelopment of the Maryland Park Lake District in the city of Maryland Heights. Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Resolution passes. Moving on to bills for final passage. Please read the first bill.
Bill number 4316, an ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from R1E Single Family Residential District to C2 General Commercial District as per application RZ 15-000018.
Any comments or concerns on Bill 4316?
An ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from R1E Single Family Residential District to C2 General Commercial District as per application RZ 15-000018. Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Bill number 4316 passes. Moving on to Bill 4317.
Bill number 4317, an ordinance granting conditional use permit CUP 15-000011 for automobile sales to Bross Heckman Incorporated owner and Penuel Raj Clement applicant.
Any comments or concerns on Bill number 4317?
An ordinance granting conditional use permit CUP 15-000011 for automobile sales to Bross Heckman Incorporated owner and Penuel Raj Clement applicant. Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Bill number 4317 passes. Moving on to Bill 4318.
Bill number 4318, an ordinance authorizing execution of two agreements relating to St. Charles County's Urban County Community Development Block Grant Program, or Urban County CDBG program, for 2014 through 2016, namely a subrecipient agreement between St. Charles County and the City of St. Peters to operate and run the city's CDBG programs and services, and a services agreement between St. Charles County and the City of St. Peters for the city's operation of urban county programs and services.
Any questions or comments regarding Bill 4318? Seeing none?
An ordinance authorizing execution of two agreements relating to St. Charles County's Urban County Community Development Block Grant Program, or Urban County CDBG program for 2014 through 2016, namely a subrecipient agreement between St. Charles County and the City of St. Peters to operate and run the city's CDBG programs and services, and a services agreement between St. Charles County and the City of St. Peters for the city's operation of urban county programs and services. Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Bill number 4319 passes. Moving on to Bill 4320.
No, that was
Well-
4318, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Bill- Moving on to Bill 4319.
Bill number 4319, an ordinance relating to housing and community assistance, and one, approving the 2016 Annual Action Plan for St. Charles County, Missouri, in its capacity as an urban county for fiscal year 2014 through 2016, under the Community Development Block Grant Program of the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, and authorizing the county executive to execute all documents or certifications required for submittal to HUD with the action plan, and two, further authorizing the county executive to execute the funding approval agreements that HUD shall require upon approving the 2016 annual action plan.
Any comments or concerns on Bill 4319? Seeing none?
An ordinance relating to housing and community assistance, and one, approving the 2016 annual action plan for St. Charles County, Missouri, in its capacity as an urban county for fiscal year 2014-2016 under the Community Development Block Grant Program of the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, and authorizing the county executive to execute all documents or certifications required for submittal to HUD with the action plan, and two, further authorizing the county executive to execute the funding approval agreements that HUD shall require upon approving the 2016 annual action plan. Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes. Bill number 4319 passes. Moving on to Bill 4320.
Bill number 4320, an ordinance amending sections 405.060 and 405.420.a ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri relating to recreational equipment or trailers.
Mr. Brazel, this was your bill. Do you have anything further to say on it?
No, it's just the same as last time.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none?
An ordinance amending sections 405.060 and 405.420.a ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri relating to recreational equipment or trailers. Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
I see no table bills, so I believe we went through the meeting pretty well tonight. Any other comments or suggestions?
Move to dismiss. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a good evening, folks.
Are you going to the mayor's charity ball?